Hi, welcome to the latest episode of the Silverfox Hustler podcast. I'm Shasi, your host. Thank you, listeners who's been listening and following the podcast. Thanks for putting it in the Spotify and Apple podcast rankings as well. I'm very grateful for that. Now, leave your ratings and reviews and even your comments. Tell me what you feel about the podcast and also tell me who you want to be as a guest on the show as well. Now, speaking of guest, I have a fellow Silver Fox in the studios as well today. Now, he is a true blue F&B man. He is the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of Harry's International, and he has been since 2016. Now, as we know, Harry's has 21 stores in Singapore, 4 in India, 3 stores in Myanmar. And as recent as 2019, Harry's was awarded the influential top brand bar and dining category at the 2019 Asian CEO Summit. And I can go on and on and on about the F&B part and what our guest has been doing, and probably we'll hear from him about this. So welcome to the Silverfox Hustle podcast. Nasen Thiagarajan, how are you, my friend?
Good afternoon, Sasi. I'm great. Thanks for having me over. 2 silver foxes in the studio. It's going to be an interesting day, and I'm actually very excited to be here to have this chat with you.
Thank you so much for coming down. I know you're a busy man, and of course you just got in from a meeting as well. So thanks for rushing down. Now, just one thing before I start talking about your earlier days growing up, right? Just one thing to start things off, right? At probably 12, 13, 14, or even 20 years old, did you ever imagine that you would become a CEO?
That's a trick question. Now, it depends whether it's 13, 14 or 20, right? But I think to put the answer to your question, I don't think I actually thought of the title per se. Now, whether I actually thought that I would lead something, most definitely. How to get there and how quickly was always a struggle. Experience has to take you some parts. The other parts are also working with good bosses, good shareholders, good business partners to bring you to a certain level, right? And there's a lot of effort coming on your end as well. So in the younger days, I did think I would lead something. I just didn't know at what level I would reach. And actually at this level where I am today, there's still a few more steps to go. So it's not over yet.
Great. That's good to know as well. It's not over, right? We are always learning and we're always moving forward. And that's quite interesting that you say that you knew that you would lead something, but you don't know what exactly. Now, we'll come to that later on. Now, how was school for you when you were growing up? Primary school, secondary school? Which school did you go to?
I think primary school, hopefully my teachers aren't listening in if they can remember me. Primary school, I was in Jalan Kayu Primary School,
Right.
which doesn't exist now. The TPE runs over the school, right? That's right at the end of Jalan Kayu itself, next to where the famous prata shop is.
Okay.
Now, school was great, right? Being in Jalan Kayu back then, we moved into the area. I lived in Seletar Camp. I was very, very privileged to live in one of those black and white houses. We moved in there in 78 and we left there in 87 to head down to Yishun.
Okay.
So the whole primary school time was there. And surprisingly enough, I'm back at Seletar Camp renting a black and white house, and I've been there about a year now so that my
Nice.
kids can sort of have the same experience. So primary school was great. And why do I say this? Because back in the Jalan Kayu Kampung days, the Chinese families, their dads were either mostly farmers,
Right.
pig farmers, fish farmers, mushroom, they were carpenters. The Malay families were also around. They would stretch a little bit further down to Buangkok, where the kampungs still exist.
Okay.
And then you had the Indians as well.
Right.
So multiracial,
Okay.
lots of different classmates,
Okay.
no handphones at home. I think the first TV that arrived at my house, I was probably primary 2 or 3, I can't remember.
Okay.
And you know, what we used to do is when people say catch spider, they weren't joking, right? Because we literally went out to
Yes,
catch
yes,
spider.
yes.
And it was just taking your bicycle,
Right.
running out, and your parents can't track you because you got no mobile phone, so you just came back when it was dinner. And
Okay.
so very, very fun and adventurous times growing up in that estate.
Right. Secondary school wise, where did you go to?
I went to Ahmad Ibrahim Secondary School,
Right,
which is
right.
in Yishun.
And then Seletar Institute, I believe.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That was for 2 years, Seletar.
Seletar Institute was a 3-year stint.
3-year course. Okay.
Yes, I stayed there for a year and a bit. I left
Okay.
school at the start of year 2.
Okay.
right? Secondary school as well, it's no big secret. People go in for 4 or 5 years, I stayed 6 years.
Okay.
So education wasn't the top priority on my list back then. I wish it was.
Okay.
I think I had the smarts to pass certain subjects. I just didn't get into it. So
Right.
didn't do too well in secondary school.
Right.
Hit down to A levels, and lucky I got through. Finally, I got a D7 for Malay, right? Because you need your second language to be up.
Okay.
So for the listeners out there, please study hard.
Okay.
But yes, secondary school, then A levels, I dropped out of school, and then
Okay.
working life begins with national service and
Okay.
all the way.
Now you spoke about studies and you're not really academically inclined, so to speak, right? And there is a recurring thingy when I spoke to all my guests as well, you know, that wasn't really part or top of their list, right? Doing well academically. Of course, there were the good ones as well academically. But speaking about street smart wise, were you street smart?
Yeah, I think I would like to say I was.
Okay.
I mean, I'm CEO now, right? So
Yeah.
if I actually showed you my education certificates, you'll be quite surprised why
Okay.
I'm in that role. So along the way, experience, street smarts, all this plays a part.
Right,
Now, during the course of your working life, whether you're dealing with a customer, a vendor, or your boss or
Yeah.
anyone, they come from all walks of life as well. Now, they could be successful through hard work or inheritance of money, and they come up to a certain level in society, or they could be very educated.
Okay.
And you still need to engage, you still need to relate, and the job still needs to get done. So I would say you would have to be street smart in order to basically overcome those
Okay.
obstacles that come along. Now lately, last maybe say a good 5 to 10 years, I could go to Google, right?
Yeah.
Before I went for a meeting.
Yeah.
But 20 years ago, I had no Google. Right, so you had to find your way around, and you had to be credible in the information or the data you have in order to engage, and you have that one little window of opportunity, and if you lose it, the deal might not go through.
Right.
So you have to put in the extra work. I'd say that someone who's a university grad might prepare 10 minutes before a meeting. Even today, I might take it 1 hour, but I want to make sure I know everything on hand before I step into that meeting. So it means more hours.
Right.
So I have to do it.
Right. So actually, I'm kind of like jumping the gun here. You got to work harder. Does it mean that you got to work harder because you are not academically inclined? Is that?
Yeah, I would say that. But then I would need someone from Harvard Business School sitting next to me now, and then we can compare notes, right? I could be wrong, right? But from where I'm sitting, I would say yes.
Okay.
I would have to work harder.
Right.
It also depends on the topic and the subject you're going into.
Right.
Now, I think I'm at a stage whereby we're going into F&B.
Right.
I don't think I need to prepare for anything. I can walk in.
Great.
Right? But, you know, if we're talking about economics of Southeast Asia, for instance, in a particular industry,
Yeah.
then yes, I need to get some statistics right and then apply it to my business. So it really depends on what I'm going in for to discuss.
Actually, it's all the more amazing because, again, how old are you? Because listeners don't know.
I think I'm older than you, Sasi. You?
Yeah. How old are you? How old are you? Come on.
I'm 46 this
Okay,
year.
you're 46. Now, back then, okay, even during my time, I'm not like far off, I'm 44, right? There wasn't the handphones, there wasn't, like you said, the quick, you know, access to Google, right? So it is more amazing that, you know, you had to work harder without all these gadgets and stuff, because right now you just have just a click, right, of a button.
Correct. And it was always a struggle because I'll go back to school days, right? Reading wasn't my forte. I'd watch 20 movies and get inspired and learn a lot from those movies, right? And when people come around and they say, oh, but if you read the book, it's better. Now, I only can imagine it's better because, you know, I don't read, which is not good, and that doesn't help as well. So I had to learn through other means, right? Through conversational or actually sitting down and going through with someone next to me or watching something, I capture things much faster than reading. Of course, that's going back then. Now I have to read, right? So
I think the first time I met you was during football days.
I would say so. Yep.
Right. Gibraltar Crescent, was that Gibraltar Crescent? I remember the 137 days.
Yes, that's correct.
Training till freaking 8 o'clock at night when you can't see a thing.
Correct,
right?
correct. There were no floodlights. We had to rely on the park lights or the street lights.
And rely on someone shouting "man on," right?
Right.
Because you can't see the ball, you can't see anything, right? Now, did you ever want to be a footballer then at that time? And you know, or was it just a hobby to you, just a pastime?
No, definitely not, right? Everybody wanted to
Okay.
be a footballer, right? I think even back then, you knew that professional players made decent money. Now, obviously, looking at Singapore football, that might be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But you know, at that age, we're talking about when I took football quite seriously. I was probably 17. You would have been 15 then,
Yeah.
right? And you know, I played in the Premier League one season, another season. I was training with the senior team. You had more years there, so I did definitely want to be. But I guess there are a few setbacks, right? Number one, the commitment wasn't there, right?
Okay.
So if the coach said run 1 kilometer, I'll run 700 meters and try to skive here and there, right?
Right.
You know, be in bed by 10 o'clock. You've got a game at Jalan Besar tomorrow. I'll come back at 3 in the morning.
You're partying somewhere.
Yeah. So I guess when you don't put in the hard work, the results won't turn out so great. Right, so I could have been in a team of a 25-man squad being number 24, number 25.
Okay.
That wouldn't hurt, right? But I guess it wasn't really for me.
Right.
And I still enjoy football. My son loves it. I still play socially 11 aside
Okay.
every Sunday. Friendly games though, so I still definitely like it.
Yeah, it's amazing that you're still doing that. You know, I'm so afraid to play because of injuries, right, at this age as well. Now, the second time or the second phase that I saw you, I remember clearly, was at Nisun Camp.
Okay.
Right.
Were you doing your national
I
service
was
there?
doing my national service.
Wow.
I was at Charlie Company, and you were one of the instructors, but at a different company. I remember. you
Okay,
know.
so what year would that be? 96?
I think so. Yeah.
Either 96 or
thereabouts,
97?
Yeah.
So if you and Charlie, I would have been in Alpha because I
Correct.
did my BMT in Charlie.
Right.
I was actually, I went to CISPAC and I came back to Alpha Company.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
I served there as a platoon sergeant till ORD. So
Right. But you didn't sign on, right? You were just
No,
yeah.
no.
Right. Did that teach you about leadership in NS?
yeah, so I think whether it's leadership or life, it taught me a lot of lessons, right? I think, you know, when I went into the army, I went in quite late. I think I shyfully said 6 years in secondary school.
Oh, okay.
And then a year and a half in A-levels. And then I was doing part-time work in F&B at that time, trying to stay away from national service or prolong it, shall we say. Right? So I got in at the age of 20 to do my NS.
Okay.
Right? So a little bit on the tail end. And then basically they gathered everyone that did not fit the normal, right? So you'd have the poly batch going
Yeah.
or so we were guys they just found that didn't fit into anything.
Okay.
So can you imagine all walks of life thrown in? You know, you've been through army, so it was very hard to adjust. I think the first 3 months, besides losing my girlfriend, which is very normal as a sergeant, I'll tell that to all my recruits, right? Was actually adjusting, and I
Right.
practically did not go home any weekend because I'll be serving some sort of a confinement,
Damn.
some sort of a punishment, through, and mainly it's because of arguing with other soldiers
Right,
or
right.
or insubordination, like they would like to say. So following the rules was never my forte
Okay.
earlier. So the army was a bit of a struggle.
Okay.
And then you move on, right? You get forced into CISPAC, that's what it's called. You get
Yeah.
the sergeant course, and then you see all the warrant officers come in, and they've got 10 times more tattoos than you have on your body.
Yes, yeah.
And they run the discipline in camp, and
Yeah.
so I think I always had that. I would like to think a little bit of that leadership quality in me,
Right.
and also that camaraderie with people and teamwork was always there.
Right.
But there were a lot of frictions, and I think getting into the sergeant course, then coming out, then being an instructor itself, and when I took my platoon sergeant rank, you know, some of the sergeants and officers were actually I was a recruit when they were there, you know, and then now I become platoon sergeant above them, and we see
okay.
through things. So little short stories along the way, but I'm very pro national service.
Okay.
I'm very pro what goes on.
Okay.
Obviously, there are some lapses here and there that can better be improved, and
Okay.
you know, they say rush to wait to rush. Time management could be slightly better, but the overall experience, the overall learning, if one can actually put it into perspective, instead of complaining or seeing no value in it, and finding your own value and interpretation, I think you'll do a growing up person, a growing up male person very good. That's my testament.
Right, great. Nice to hear that as well, right? I mean, from someone, you spoke about the tattoos and all. Just a short one. How many tattoos do you have?
Well, it's I don't know how many. I think I've got some on the left, some on the right, some on the back. Right now, the reason I say I don't know why it's how many is because kids these days are. I mean, now you can walk in and take a picture of the internet, and the tattoo artist goes for it.
Yeah.
Back then, without money, I had to go $10 by $10.
Oh, okay.
So this is a flower, next a red Indian comes, then an eagle. So at the end of the day, you have this huge art piece made up of many things.
Okay.
Over a period of time, whenever you had $10 or $20. So can you believe it? Back then, you could get a tattoo for $10 or $20.
And then there was one parlor just outside Nisun Camp as well.
That's where all my tattoos are done.
Right. Okay. Now, besides that, right, now let's move forward a little bit. Now tell me about your start in the F&B industry after NS.
I actually started before
Okay,
that, right?
okay.
So, when you're waiting for O-level results and
Okay.
I was not born into a rich family.
Okay.
So, neither were we very poor, but, we were a normal family and everyone had to earn their keep. So, I needed money, right? So, you would not see me school holidays, just hanging around and things like that. So football days was football days as well. But I always made sure somehow I was working, right? Either on the weekends or during the holidays. So it started in 1991. I took up a part-time job with Fire.
Wow.
If you can remember Fire.
I can.
Yes, I think it was called Orchard Plaza where
Yes,
it was. Yes, so that was in 91. And then between school and work, I was doing a lot of part-time stints, and actually at one stage I didn't know whether I would make it into pre-university, which was Seletar Institute. I got accepted, right? And I guess my results would not be that great, so I actually went in full-time with Fire.
Okay.
And it was a lot of hard work.
What did you do at Fire?
As a bartender.
Okay.
I started as a barback, actually, washing the glasses, cutting the lemons and limes.
Okay.
Yeah, so from there I worked through that, and surprisingly I actually had an offer to join my bar manager to head down to open up Fire Maidan, and I was only 18 years old to assist him to open that club, right? And I was only working with them, I think, less than a year, probably 6 months. So there must have been something I did right. And it was something, can you imagine, at 18, So I said, let's get this done before NS comes. But then the letter arrives, right? You have been accepted to pre-university. So I chose education and I went there. But I still kept up with my part-time work.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that was the real start. Now, this is exactly why I started this podcast. From cutting lemons.
Right.
Right, from cutting lemons, absolutely brilliant, and now you are the CEO of Harry's. Now, that is a wonderful story to tell. Now, you started bartending, right? You must
Yes.
know your drinks a lot.
I would like to think so. I mean, obviously, if drinks or even like cocktails and things, it's evolved so much, right? Even commercial beers to craft. I think I would say I know a fair bit. But there are a lot of other experts out there, right? Your sommeliers with their wines, and your mixologists with all their cocktail knowledge, and a lot more that's come out. And I guess it's because of globalization and the internet world, and how you can learn and know so much. But yeah, I think I can hold my own in a alcoholic conversation or a bartending conversation.
Now, your start, you talk about cleaning and washing and cutting lemons and bartending and stuff like that. What did you learn from that initial stage of your career?
I guess work was very difficult, right? $7 an hour, right? And Fire had three levels.
Yeah.
And the lift stopped at that first level, which was of that building or of that club.
Yeah.
So can you imagine carrying 30-liter beer kegs up to the third floor, right?
Okay.
With hands and washing the place out. We'd close up. The club would close at 3, right? We'll leave at about 6. It was a lot of hard work, right? So obviously you miss Christmases, weddings, holidays, public holidays. So it was that's why a lot of the young people out there, even till today, don't like that work, and neither did I, right? I'm not pretending to say that I enjoyed that hard work.
Okay.
But I guess I made the best out of it, and I tried to find angles of what's next.
But it was probably the most happening discotheque. During that time, one of the most, right?
I would say it would be number 1, right?
Yeah.
I mean, then you'd have Xanadu around the corner or Phoenix Hotel nearby, but Fire was it, right? And if I'm not mistaken, it was bigger than Zouk. I would think so.
Yeah.
So yes, it was happening, and that was the place. And even after I left pre-university prematurely and before jumping on to national service, I did take up a job as a bartender at Studebaker's as well. So that was another club as well.
Right.
So yeah, I think I learned a lot of hard work and trying to find out angles of how do I become that manager there, or how do I become that guy in that suit.
So you're always observing as well, right? As
Yeah.
while you're working and how you do stuff. That's good. Now, Indochine? After
Yes,
that?
no, I worked for this group called Indochine Consortium, so that's different from Indochine, the bar, right?
Right.
Now, what Indochine Consortium had was this bar called Huba, HU'. Now, that was a very famous acid bar in 1998. I think that was I know it was located at the old St. Joseph Institution, Bras Basah, Waterloo Street.
Okay.
That was a very, very happening small little bar with a lot of customers, and that was in 98.
Okay. How did that transition to Australia?
Wow, good question. So I'll take one step back.
Right.
So after the army, what do I do, right? And I still had no idea what I was going to do, and never was it in any point of time did I think that F&B would be my career.
Okay.
It
Even
was-
at that time, right?
Yeah, even at that time, right? So after national service, I look for anything, right? Insurance salesman, car salesman, vacuum cleaner salesman, whatever. Because when you don't have papers, right, then I'll think that, with some street smarts and I think I can converse or talk okay to be a salesperson. But, I always dreaded doing sales, right? Trying to convince someone to buy something if you don't believe in a product. And a salesman's got to sell. So I went back into F&B and I worked for this bar called Mambo Kings on Scotts Road. That went well for a year. And then Huba came along because some young entrepreneurs wanted to run this bar. They had great ideas. Obviously different opinions on how to do things. So they thought, okay, let's get someone who's done this to be the neutral person. So I took up that job as a consultant.
Okay.
And I stayed with them for a year. And from how did I go to Australia, I think back then there was quite a big club, about 20,000 square feet in Melbourne, right, called the Warehouse Nightclub. And it was taken over by some Singaporean owners.
All right.
And I guess they looked at Singapore being familiar and seeing who shall we take, right? And they saw the results at Huba. Obviously, Huba is an acid jazz bar.
Yeah.
This place in Melbourne was Salt Nightclub. It was 5 bars,
Huge, right?
2,000 people a night, kind of. Yeah, it was totally different. But I guess they would have done some homework and realized that Fire was some experience from Fire.
Yeah.
Then Studebaker's was American run, even their management. So when they came calling and probably some friends and recommendation, right? Sure, first thing I did, I packed up my bags and I ran, man. After a year with Huba, I went there to see what Melbourne was all about.
You were how old at that time?
1999, born in 74. Would that make me 25?
Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah, 25.
25. And
So
you were a GM there?
I went there as a consultant, 1 year contract.
Oh, right.
After that, then I was offered a
Okay.
GM position for
Right.
2 years. So I stayed with
Nice.
that club for 3 years. And then I stayed in Melbourne, continued doing clubs with other companies and consultancy and everything, more from a GM sort of role
Okay.
for a further 3 years. So overall, 6 years in Melbourne.
What is the difference in terms of the scene, Australia, Singapore? What's the main differences you can...
Well, partying wise, business wise, there's a lot of difference. I think this podcast will take 2 hours, right? But I think if we look at Melbourne, it's quite a cool city. There's a lot of culture, arts, a lot of creative people in there. Now, back then, and it's slowly increasing now. Back then, there was not enough people, so you'd see a club not open for 7 days a week, right? If you're lucky, they open 2 days a week.
Okay.
And that's all the people they had, right? Friday, Saturday, or only maybe one night a week.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing with the clubs as well, they're all, a lot of them are promoter sort of led. So, if you open the club, you just be the real estate person.
Okay.
And then you go out there and get a promoter that then brings in 1,000 people for you on a Friday.
Okay.
And they won't do Saturday, it'll be someone else. So, the way the business works, it's different.
Okay.
Where else in Asia or in Singapore, you sort of enjoy 4 or 5 days of good trade, right? 3 days being stronger, the other 2 days weaker. So business-wise, it's a bit different. Culture-wise, a bit different.
Right.
The staff there are very few full-time staff.
Okay.
Most of them are all part-time.
Right.
They work in retail in the day, work in the clubs at night because hourly salaries are higher.
Okay.
And you know, they can take longer breaks during summer. So
Okay.
total mentality difference between workers as well.
Shanghai, China.
Mm.
How did that happen?
Wow. Okay. So 99, I reached in Melbourne. I left Melbourne in 2005.
Right.
Now, when I left Melbourne, I did not leave. I left after a good 6 years, but things were getting harder and harder in Melbourne.
Okay.
So there was some, you know, it's nightlife, right? So crime rate was getting higher there, and you know, and I think I was coming 30 already. I think.
Were you married then, or?
No,
No.
no, no.
Okay.
Towards the tail end, I was 2005 actually.
Okay.
So what I told my wife is let's get back to Singapore and see if I can find something here, right? Expenses. It was expensive living in Melbourne, right? I had to pay for my car. I had to rent a house.
You met your wife there in.
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay.
So she's from Australia,
Right.
right? So we met there. So we came back to Singapore, and unfortunately, my beautiful country, I could not get a job here. I think I was looking
Why?
because I was looking for a senior position, right? So
In the same industry.
yes,
Right?
yes, of course. So in order for me to get a position, the actual owner of that business would then have to interview me, right? So
Okay.
if you went through HR or another GM, it's like GM talking to GM, right? Then so I could never get that breakthrough. And being away from the country for 6 years, you know, some owners might have heard of me, not everyone, you know. And then
Okay.
if you look at me, right, fire, Studebakers, this guy was just a bartender.
Okay.
I mean, now he's asking. It's
Yeah,
different
yeah,
if.
right.
Yeah, so I only had Huba to hold on to, which was only a year there, right? So it was hard to break through, but luckily an opportunity came through. A Singaporean had a business in Shanghai that wasn't doing too well,
Right.
and needed the business to turn around somehow, and introductions were made,
Okay.
and I met the owner in Singapore, and I got the job, and there you go again. The bags were packed, and I headed down to Shanghai, and the year would have been 2005. Yeah.
Right. And you revived them. Right? They were struggling. Right?
Yes,
Let's put it this
yes.
way. They were struggling. You went there. You revived them in just a year.
Right.
What did you do, Nasen?
I think I wouldn't sing praises to myself, right? So how the revival looked like, I just want to be honest that I did not take everything that was the same and made it work.
Okay.
That's very difficult to do at times.
Right.
So when I went in there and had a look, I told the owner that you're never going to make it.
You
And-
can't do the same thing anyway because it's failing.
Yeah, but sometimes it's failing because management didn't do a good job,
Right,
right?
okay.
Yeah. So you really got to dig into the brand and the concept and who's translating it and driving it, right? So after I studied it, and mind you, going into Shanghai, right? After 6 years in Australia where it's more westernized, and coming back to Asia, and it's also Chinese speaking, right? And you know, I'm Indian, right? And I mean, I understand a little bit of Mandarin or Hokkien, but it's not going to bring me very far.
Okay.
So it was not going to work. So then
Okay.
let's look at the property and what we had. So we revamped it in terms of the concept as well.
Right.
Came up with a game plan that we will make the business successful following this new model.
Right.
And then why don't you sell it to someone that likes this concept and
Right.
and wants to bring it through, and you get back most of the money that you'd have already sunk in
Right.
or sunk in, rather than lose it all. So there was a game plan to it.
Okay.
And thankfully after 1 year everything materialized, and that went well.
Nice.
That went well.
Nice. Cafe Del Mar.
Yeah, so actually all my jobs are introductions, right? So we got the Shanghai business.
So you did. Okay. Wait.
Right.
Let me get this straight.
Right.
Right. So far till now, you haven't gone for any interviews, except for did you go for an interview for Fire because that was your first so-called first as a bartender?
Yeah. So that was a bartender, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
not many introductions going to open up
Correct,
there,
correct,
right? I mean, the
correct.
jobs would
Yeah.
be there, but yeah, I think from a senior management perspective, a lot of it has been
Great.
through introductions, right? So after Shanghai, when we sold the business, I had to work for the new owners, the new business owners, or I had to not work in Shanghai for 6 months. So I explored Beijing and other cities, and I was not ready to move to a new city.
Okay.
So I told the present boss there that why don't we do this, right? You pay me 6 months,
All right.
since I can't work 6 months here, and I'll find my own way, or you find me my next job.
Okay.
So I got an interview with Cafe Del Mar was then under Live
Live
Brands, right? Ministry of Sound and everything. So I took a flight back, had an interview with the CEO back then, got the job, and then I moved back. So that was it.
It was a new setup, wasn't it? The Cafe Del Mar thingy.
Yes,
It's
yes,
a new project.
yes,
So you started with the
Yeah,
project.
So
Nice.
my employment was
Right.
I was not involved in the cannery project. That's what they called
Okay.
it with Clark Key.
Okay.
Mine was Sentosa. So
Right.
from scratch, then we built it up.
How was that? How was the experience of Cafe
I
Del
think
Mar?
it was great. I've done so many club openings, right? So when you talk about construction drawings, I think I can go into a construction meeting room and sort things out real quick,
Wow.
right? So what Cafe Del Mar gave me was actually building a swimming pool on a beach, right?
Okay.
So structure-wise is different. How you're going to excavate sand from the beach compared to sand on normal grass or on a hill, right? So there was a lot of engineering discussions that went into. So I'm quite proud to say that I could build a F&B complex 20,000 square feet on the beach, right next to the ocean. So that was great experience. I think working with the brand which came from Spain, so understanding the concept, the music behind it, and then getting our local guys trained. There were a lot of challenges as well. First time, I'm doing something by the water. Once there was a sandstorm. Can you believe it? In Singapore, I've never experienced a sandstorm, and the sand really goes into your eye, right? And then you got the rain, you've got the monsoon season.
Right.
So it was quite adventurous times, and we did very well when we first opened. But I guess I decided to leave because my daughter was just born.
Okay.
She was born March.
Your first daughter?
My first daughter. Mila was born 2007 in March. I left the group somewhere in May,
Right.
and I joined a singular restaurant. It was called Mimolette, back in Bukit Timah in
That
the
is the
Turf Club.
Turf Club, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
So I went into quiet. I was the general manager of that restaurant and bar, and from there we grew, right? So from Mimolette, it was a 9-year journey.
Was it under the Far East organization?
Yeah, Far East would be the tail end of that 9-year story.
Okay.
So it was actually from that one restaurant we started this group called Refinery Concepts.
Okay.
Open brands like Kinky.
Yeah.
Then we did a merger with the Marmalade group. So like a homegrown brand, Marmalade Pantry came in. Then another group that had Oriole Coffee and Bedrock restaurant, and we had Fat Cow. We had a few concepts. I think 12 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
Nice.
so we brought it all the way till the year 2013. I think it's 6-7 years.
Okay.
And then and then interest came from Far East organization, and they
Okay.
bought the business out. I
Nice.
stayed with Far East as the chief operating officer for a further 2 years.
Okay.
And then I left the company there and joined Harry's.
I remember Mimolette.
Yes.
At Turf City, right?
Yes.
And I think I went over a few times. I saw you there. I went with Jake, our friend, right? And then that road leading up into it's a damn quiet place, isn't it?
It's called Fairways Drive.
Correct.
the road.
Yeah. So I'll take a cab, right? You don't drink and drive. So that is like a very quiet and eerie place. You can't like walk out of there like 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning.
No one would dare walk
Exactly,
out.
it's quite scary.
Yeah, there are a lot
But-
of stories there. As long as
Seriously?
it gets dark, don't
Really?
walk out.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but once you get there and you're leading up to Mimolette, right? It gets kind of cool, the lights, the lights and all.
You see
and
this
it's a cool place.
black and white house on this small
Yes.
little knoll, and we had the restaurant part. We had like an outdoor bar which was almost like a club, right? With DJs
it's
in
a cool
there.
place.
Yeah.
It's a cool place. Yeah, very
It
nice.
did very well there
Yeah.
for a while.
How long did that place last?
We started in 2007, and then in 2009, was it the Asian financial
Yeah.
crisis and then after that the casinos opened up. So
Okay.
corporate spending was not as good as before,
Yeah.
and after the financial crisis when we relooked the brand, and after the merger with Marmalade Pantry, we thought, okay, why don't we just do all restaurants, because a lot of the clubbing and drinking has gone into the city, the brands coming out, the casinos were very competitive.
Right.
So we kept it as Marmalade Pantry for a while, and I think we gave up that whole property maybe in 2014, so a good 7 years.
Right. Let's move on to Harry's.
Right.
This gets interesting as well, right? So this is what you do currently. Now, you are the CEO of Harry's International. How did you get that part? In 2016?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So when I left Far East, actually I did not I did not find a new job, right?
Right.
It's been a long run.
Okay.
So I thought maybe it's time to take a break,
Okay.
right? And if I'm looking for a C-suite position, it's also not so easy. Going around the market looking for a job, the market's small as far as F&B is concerned,
Okay.
right? And so I left the company and parted ways in a very, very good way.
Okay.
Decided to take a break. However, the break only lasted 2 months, right? I had the privilege of meeting the owners of Harry's,
Okay.
perhaps about 2 years prior to me
Okay,
joining
okay.
them. It was just a chat, and they came into the Singapore market new. They actually acquired the brand, and it's a private equity
Okay.
arm. So I had the privilege of meeting them. I think they were out for a CEO,
Right.
and they got some headhunters in. I have not really asked them whether did they hint my name or did the headhunters find me.
Okay.
These are questions you don't ask, right?
Right.
So I know when the headhunters approached and the conversation went along, Singapore is small. I just have to ask about 3 questions. You answer them quite close to the truth. I'll roughly know which company
Okay.
is looking, and then I thought, hey, why not? From clubs, I went into restaurants, and even in the restaurants, we always had some sort of a good beverage or drinking component as
Okay.
far as that's concerned. You can see
Right.
that with Kinky and everything in my
Yes,
previous work
okay.
as well. So I thought, okay, going back to a pub, right? And when you look at Harry's, it was started in 1992, the first
Yeah.
one in Boat Quay.
Okay.
And I remember working as a part-timer a few doors down in this bar called Escobar. Now that would be 1997,
Yeah.
right? And back then I couldn't even afford a Heineken in
Okay.
Harry's, right? I would say one day I'm going to work for this bar, right? But obviously back then I was thinking maybe bar manager, right? So the story resonates. It's homegrown.
Yeah.
1992, 20 stores, and there was a lot of work to be done, right? So this was it's a good story to add to my portfolio, and there's a lot of things with the brand that resonates with me and locally, being a Singaporean as well. So I think this is just something I can't say no to.
Okay.
So I had to get this job.
It's safe to say that you jumped at the opportunity, because I was going to ask you that, and judging from what you said so far, I think you probably thought, this is great.
I think at the positions I'm looking for, there's not many out there.
Okay.
So I might have to go regional,
Yeah.
and in that year, 2016, my second boy Max, he's born already, right? So he would have been about, like, say, around 4
Yeah.
years old. So packing up, going overseas was not really an option for me. So and like I said, local brand and great owners, great bosses. So I said, yeah, why not? Let's give it a try.
And there's 2 things, right? Number one is it's about the timing as well, because you don't know, in the future you might not get this chance again. So that's one. The other thing is, I think it's very important, and I think, I don't know whether you share the same thing. I think the reputation is very important. Not Harry's. I mean, I'm talking about your reputation as well, because you spoke about starting out in fires and then going to Australia, and I'm sure these guys have done their homework, and your reputation, I'm sure, has been that good, right? You can't just get anyone from the street to be a CEO. So I got to say, he must be damn good.
Well, maybe I won't answer that question whether I'm damn good, but one thing's for sure, I'm not bad, right?
Yeah.
And I think to your answer about the employers, doing their homework, they always do, for
course,
sure.
yeah.
And especially when you use a recruitment agency, they do even more work.
Yeah.
So I'm quite glad that the results came out okay for me to
Yeah.
get that opportunity to have that interview.
Excellent. Tell us about Harry's the brand. You once said, right? I heard this, that it's like a 7-Eleven of sorts, right? So explain that part, and
Right.
explain the Harry's brand.
Right. Okay. So I think to that 7-Eleven part, right? I think I'm not sure how many stores they have now. Maybe 100 or so. now you can see a 7-Eleven here, and maybe probably just across the road you could see another one.
Okay.
So they're very strategically located
Yeah.
that the person or their customers won't even want to cross the road to go buy a can of Coke, let's say, right?
Okay.
So what I mean by 7-Eleven or bars is we're more a real estate game. So I think the brand, if I put it where Mimolette used to be,
Hmm.
you know, in Turf City. I'm not going to be able to pull so many people into that place.
Okay.
We are a commercial brand. Our products are quite commercial.
Right.
You'll find a Heineken in Bar B, and you'll come to Harry's, and
True.
a Heineken would be there still. So, location, it's one of our key things that we look out for.
Okay.
And also, when you look at a pub story, right, it's very normal. Irish pub, English pub.
Okay.
You know, people make reference to the word pub using Western concepts. So we'd like to call Harry's an Asian pub,
Right.
right? Not much different from the Western side of things,
Okay.
except that we have a little bit more of Asian influence into our food. You know, we've got
Okay.
a seafood mee goreng. You know,
Right.
we've got ota toasties, which is your ota on French
Yeah,
toast,
right.
and satay, and so an Asian pub. And we would like to call ourselves, you know, we've got this working title, me and my management team and our staff use, we call it Beer Hoods,
Okay.
right? Because we sell a lot of beer,
Right.
and we want to be a neighborhood bar, so
Okay.
Beer Hoods. So what we've done recently in the years is, while Harry's might be the same throughout, we try not to make it a cookie cutter.
Right.
If you go to Dempsey, you'll see the British black and white colonial feel in that store.
Okay.
If you go to Cuppage in Orchard Road, because that stretch, there are a lot of young visitors. You'll see a lot of graffiti on our wall to
Right.
resonate with
Okay.
them.
Okay.
You go to Resorts World, a lot of tourists. I mean, now it's COVID, so it's tough times,
Okay.
but that was the idea, and it's like a brewery concept.
Okay.
So we try to adapt to the neighborhood, because that's
Right.
what we are,
Right.
And every neighborhood we go to, there's going to be one bar that's doing well,
Okay.
with the bosses or the owners standing there and their
Okay.
friends there. So it's very hard for me to open a Harry's, put a manager, and get success.
Mm.
So it's all about the neighborhood, where we are, and how do we engage with them. So
Right.
the brand goes a little bit deeper on where we locate the bar, and
Okay.
how we design it, and who our target audience is.
Okay. Speaking of neighborhood bars, there's just one quite close to my place, Rangoon Central, which is somewhere in Paya Lebar Road, right?
Tai Seng.
Tai Seng, correct.
Yes.
That's the one.
Yes.
I haven't been inside. I hope to one day. I think it looks good as well. You speak about the cookie cutter thingy, and how about consistency throughout all the 21 stores in Singapore? Do you need that in terms of the quality, say the food, for example?
Definitely. I think even if you only had 2 stores, you need that
Yeah.
consistency, right? And I've got 21, so it's a lot of hard work to get the consistency right.
Right.
So we're not at a stage where we have invested in a central kitchen, but we will. I think once we're at about 30 stores, we've done our numbers, we will get our central kitchen to get that going. But these days, right, with technology and cost measurements quite reasonable, we do a lot of OEM deals with vendors.
Okay.
So we'll sign an agreement, and you know, you'd get some marination or some mise en place done for me on a particular item up to step 5, you know, and then
Okay.
when it reaches my stores, the kitchen guy just takes 2 steps and it's done,
Okay.
right? So there is still effort in the food, but we're just paying someone else to
Right.
get it done,
Right.
and then reaching, and then that gives us a lot of
Right.
control in the consistency, and
Right,
that's a
right.
very important factor in the business.
I think so as well, right? It's key, especially if you don't want to have like complaints like how come I went to this Harry's and then food's
Yeah.
not that great, like is what I experienced, you know, like some fast food restaurants I know. I don't want to mention names, but just going back a little bit, right? When you were appointed, was there a target set, or did you come up with your own targets? Was there something that was needed?
I think there was no real target set, right? I think when you go into a role such as mine,
Right.
you talk about high level numbers of where you're at today,
Okay.
and where you came from, right? So has that been an increase, or was it sliding? So
Okay.
these are things we talk about, and then we talk about what's the end game.
Right.
We sell the business in 5 years, or we run it for 20 years. I want to pass it down to my family, or you know, I want to do this, I want to do
Okay.
that. That sets a tone as to where you need to bring the business, and the pace,
Right.
how quickly you need to go. So
Okay.
I think once those high level items were quite clear
Okay.
between me and my shareholders, and then basically the work starts. So it's really about understanding what the shareholder wants,
Okay.
right? So this is something I can advise, even if you're a GM, you know, of one store, or a manager, right? I think what the owner wants, what's the end game? I think
Of course.
that gets the owner thinking as well, and then you can really map out and plan objectively.
Right.
Or else, if you become, F&B is a very difficult business as it is, and if you're just reactive all the time,
Okay.
you will make a fair bit more mistakes than good.
I've heard of stories, or on in the papers and online as well. The changes that you made when you came on board, Harry's, right? Tell us about a few of the changes that you made.
I think I made some, right? I think
Right.
my predecessors, they made a lot as well. I mean, it's a brand that's 27 years old today. So there are a lot of changes that go along. I think some of the key changes I would like to say I focused on was the Asian element in the food,
Okay.
right? Having that, the neighborhood beer hoods part I spoke about earlier,
Yeah.
and that goes with my staff and instilling that in them,
Okay.
right? Rather than just your normal training and this is it, right? So now you got to understand your neighborhood, who's the guy that comes, and looking at those things. And yeah, like I said, adapting to the neighborhood and getting the store to resonate with that neighborhood was another thing we looked at. We look a lot into the brand and looked at refreshing the brand as well.
Right.
We spent a lot of time in customer feedback,
Okay. Okay.
net promoter score, our guest experience index, trying to put some numbers in terms of guest satisfaction as well. So I'm I didn't go to school much, but I'm very numbers driven, and to me everything is numbers,
Nice.
right? So
Nice, nice.
if you can peg a number to something that you're doing, it makes things quite easy to then understand, are you on track, good, bad, So I tried to get that sort of culture into the system,
Okay.
and there were a lot of changes in the management team as well. People
Yeah.
coming in and
Okay.
out, and sometimes with a new leader coming in.
Okay.
Some people adapt, some might not. So certain things you have to change around. So it's like football, right? The coach comes in and some changes to the players and the staff.
It's good that you said that, because I want to ask you, how easy is it or how difficult is it to change or to make changes? Because people are so used to a routine, and people are so opposed, or some people at least are so opposed to changes, right? So someone like you coming in trying to make not wholesale changes, obviously, changes here and there, but still you might get that, how do you
I think change definitely is very, very difficult, right? Whether it's one change or 10 changes, right? Obviously, the more changes you go through, it's going to be difficult. But I guess it's the mindset and the culture.
right?
Now, do you come in and go into the culture, or do you just set your own culture? Now, both ways are dangerous, right? So I think understanding that culture is one, and how much can you get out of the team is next, and how long for them to sway to what you're trying to get to,
Right.
or how slow they'll be on that. So the key management is very important to be
Okay.
to be people that are aligned. And everyone's business professionals, right? If I'm not aligned with the leader, we can have that chat, then I move on and find a leader I'm aligned with, right? But if I'm aligned with that leader, then I, as a subordinate or someone in a very critical role as a senior manager, then I better wake up and get aligned, and we need to move on that, right? And I think whether it's easier or harder, experience definitely helps. So I can always backtrack
Okay.
of my own experiences and
Okay.
see, okay, now which play is this going to work,
Right.
right?
Right.
And if sometimes I find that there's two plays, which one do I go to? Then I've got a chairman who's more experienced than me. So I think whether you call it a mentor or someone more senior and experienced, and it might not necessarily be F&B related, right?
Yes, yes.
It could be business related.
Yes.
It's culture, it's people, it's mindset. And when you have that experience as well, or that conversation as well, it gives you a different perspective.
Yeah.
You start thinking and looking at things more clear.
Yeah.
And the problems are always going to be there, but it helps you sort of like overcome them.
Right. This is beautiful, Nasen. You know why? Because this sounds like a book, like a leadership for dummies. No, seriously, right?
Right,
Because
right.
it's not only for business. It's got to do with everything else. As a leader, right? You talk
Yes.
about culture, right? Do you like come in and change the whole culture, or you study the culture and try to, it's brilliant. It's great, really. It's just like a football manager coming in, right? What do you do, right? So that's very nice. Customer loyalty.
Right.
And I just give you an example, like Walla Wallas
Yes,
in Hollywood. They've been around for like, I don't know how many years.
I think they would have hit 30 already.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
and they're still going strong.
Yes.
And they're really, really good. So how do you achieve that kind of customer loyalty, and with Harry specifically?
I think with Harry's, I dare not compare myself with Walla's, right?
Okay.
It's an institution there down in Lorong Mambo.
Yeah.
Stanley Yeo is a good friend of mine, the owner.
Okay.
He does a great job. I think that's an institution. It's like Zouk, right? I mean, now Zouk's exchange hand with owners, but I think they'll continue that institution, right?
Yeah.
So you see young people, when they hit 18, they have to go to Walla's. You know, you hear these stories and they want. So they've got that young coming in with that brand. And then you got the older guys, the neighborhood guys that have their own furniture or the same furniture or table where they always sit in. So that kind of loyalty is built in by the owners and the team that's there. And they work hard at it. It makes it easy also that they have one outlet and it's in a location that's very cool, right? Holland Village. I think Harry's side, our loyalty program goes more on our Harry's app. It's more commercial. You know, we download databases, we engage through the app. So we try to get that connection between my store manager and that customer at a particular store. So say for instance, Sasi, you're near Tai Seng, right? And
Right.
one day you decide to go and you resonate with that store, you'll be a regular there.
Right.
Unfortunately, if you go to Boat Quay, my guys might not recognize you.
Okay.
So if you're a member through the app, that helps a little bit,
Okay.
but you still need to go back to Tai Seng to see that manager. Let's say his name is John.
Yeah.
Right, and you still go back there. Now, I can't get John moving into every store. That's not going to happen. But we use some sort of technology to keep some sort of consistency across.
Right.
And then it's still really, I mean, it's an F&B business, a bar business, a pub business. That human touch, you know, digitalization. People say yes, that brings you some part of it, but that human touch will never go away. That thing, I'm quite sure, right? I mean, if I had to walk into a bar and my Heineken is served by a robot, I might try to find another bar, or maybe I drink at home.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
so
yes. Those are the kind of things you talk about, the people relations part, right? The people relations bit. Those are the kind of things that you do not really learn in school. You know, the EQ part.
yes,
It's really missing in school.
I think the EQ part is definitely embedded in a fair bit of subjects in some way or some form.
Yeah, but
I guess in school, like if I can share my own experience, is I think point number one, I did not resonate with why do I need to learn this and how can I apply it to real life. I think students struggle with that, right? And so long as I can't apply, then why do I need to know? I mean, it's just the adults telling you that you need this, you need this.
Right.
But as you go along, you realize you know it helps, and that's why I think math. I was quite okay with math. I think because all the discipline masters and mistresses, they were HODs of math. Right?
Right.
And they must have seen something in me because I didn't have to go and clean the drain or anything. I had to sit outside and do math, right? And numbers is good. You know, when you gamble, and I used to gamble when I was very young, much younger. I mean, I don't gamble now. It's been a long time since I quit. I've never been to the casinos to play as well. But numbers come in and then you realize business, you know, I've got $10, I need to do this. So from a very young age, you need to calculate every little move. So I guess that interest was there and that helped me develop throughout. So the EQ part is definitely there somewhere. I think if I went back and I mean, you are teaching as well, so I'm sure you'll find some EQ there. But yeah, I don't think they've got an EQ lesson going on. And it's really about life experiences and exposure. And that's why it's very important to be exposed to, let's say, the right company. The right learnings, and for me it's throughout, right? So I tell my guys, even if you're working here as a bartender today or just a waiter, and you know you are set up to be a CEO of a bank later on, this is your part-time job, learn something as you go along, because you're never going to get this opportunity.
It comes, you learn it through experience, and even while teaching, it comes from incidental teaching, not through a book, right? Like this is what you're supposed to do from A to Z. Yeah, you made a good point there. Myanmar and India, right? Just speak a little bit about that. How is it going for them so far?
India is tough. I think we've only got 4 stores, right? And India is a big country. We've got 2 in Bangalore, 1 in Delhi, and 1 in Mumbai. So the difficulty comes with different laws in each state. These are all state laws rather than federal laws. So it's a bit of a struggle. When I get there, you know, transport is also difficult, right? I have to actually fly from Mumbai to Bangalore, right? So in order for India to work, we really need to scale up. But at this stage, we're just leaving it as it is and seeing where we'll get to. Myanmar is great. We have a full franchise arrangement there, and the company Apex Group that runs it, their passion in F&B is there. If you go to Yangon and you ask someone where's a cool place to have a drink, they'll tell you Harry's, and there's 3 to choose from.
Beer is cheap?
So you'll be surprised, right? A pint of international beer, it goes for $3 US, right? And we're doing that in Singapore for about $8-9 US a pint, right? And their sales is, if I had to put them within my 20 stores, I'm quite proud to say they would be on the top 10,
Wow.
right? Not the top, but definitely in the top
Okay.
10 category. So there is volume there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a market that's opening up, and it's doing great business for us.
Nice. Next up for Harry's, what are your plans? Now, if you guys are wondering, if you're listening to this as well, I haven't mentioned anything about the COVID-19 situation, and I don't want to anyway, right? It's the show is not about that, but what was the destination for Harry's next up?
I think these are some very, very scary and uncertain times, right? One thing's for sure, we're here for the long haul,
Okay.
right? Now, whether my 21 stores becomes 18 or 17, I can't answer that right now, but obviously I would want to keep all 21. Every year we are planning to open 2 new ones, right? So that has to take a little bit of a back step.
Right.
Definitely this year is out. Perhaps next year it might be on the shelf again, and then 2022 you see
Right.
new stores coming in. And that also depends on how this pandemic is being managed with the health experts, and
Okay.
whether a vaccine comes out or not,
Right.
tourism comes back or not, because we've got a lot of properties, so some of them do rely heavily on tourists as well, besides locals. So we're playing it safe,
Okay.
keeping it low, and at the same time we were going to grow our franchise in Southeast Asia. So
Okay.
that will take a step back. Hopefully we can start looking at it next year. So it's about saving jobs, keeping the business going, keeping our guys employed, and playing it very safe in the
Right.
next year or two.
Nice. Wishing you all the best, Nasen, for Harry's, for the present as well as for the future. Now, let's move on a little bit before we wrap up. I want to talk about Nasen the man, right? Is it difficult for a local to reach the heights that you have in this industry? For a local guy?
Well, I would say it depends where, right? Now, in Singapore, perhaps I used to believe that, yes, it's difficult.
Yeah.
I still think it's difficult, but there are opportunities. And let me tell you something about, let's just look at Southeast Asia, for instance.
Okay.
Now, if I was someone, a Vietnamese owner and I wanted some brand, and besides looking at the US and the UK, people are looking at Singapore. You'll be
Okay.
surprised at local brands they're looking at.
Okay.
You'll be surprised at the talent pool they're looking at here,
Okay.
right? To use in their country. So Singapore as a country, and the people that we have in the F&B scene, we are stepping up,
Right.
right? But yeah, positions are not a lot, only because our country is small, right? 5 million
Yeah.
people, and a lot of our money, if we really want to grow big, has to be done regionally,
Okay. Okay.
right? And when you look regionally as well, you might put one Singaporean to hit something there, but the rest you'd want to tap into local, because
Right.
there are other economics in different markets, right? So rental might be cheap, labor might be cheap, but something else becomes expensive,
Yeah.
and so going local is it's always good, right? And I think it's globalization, right? So I'm not going to go into Vietnam and bring an army of Singaporeans to work there, right? You got to respect the local country, the culture, the people, and
Right.
they're going to make it work for you, right? Because you need the local. So people can sniff you out if
Yeah.
if you do business in not such a good way,
Right.
right? So there are opportunities, not a lot, but there are those that are out there, and the people who want to excel, they keep opening up, because we are a marketing country,
Right.
we are a banking country. A lot of head offices get set up here, not only by local businessmen, even international business people.
Right.
And then from here you span out, besides Singapore, other parts of Asia.
Right. Family life. Just a short one. What is your family life like? You have a wife and 3 kids, I believe.
Yes,
And,
yes,
uh,
yes.
How is it like so far?
Great, man. I think family life is great, right? I think I'm glad that I'm in a position now where I do not have to be at any of the Harry's late at night.
Right.
Right. I make it a point before circuit breaker. I mean, circuit breaker has been lifted, but we are still working
Yeah.
from home now. But I make it a point that every evening my last meeting happens in one of the Harry's,
Okay.
and that's usually about 6:30, and it goes for an hour.
Okay.
I'm home by 8 p.m., 8:30.
Okay.
Right. I eat dinner a little bit later.
Right.
Must have 1 or 2 Heinekens first.
Every day, every night.
Every night, man.
Right.
That's like I hope I'm not alcoholic now. This is more like a marathon, long
Right,
haul
okay.
sort of drinking, instead of 2 beers in 10 minutes, right?
Okay.
So I get the beer, put the kids to bed,
Right.
have my dinner later. And then it's quiet time for myself at night. So usually it's on the laptop catching up because normal work times, right? I'm just having meetings from the time I step in till the time I step out.
Right.
So seldom have time to catch up with my own work that needs some attention. So that gets done weeknights at home before I turn on maybe one episode of Netflix or something, and then I go to bed. And I live in quite a very quiet area, so sometimes it's just
Right.
a quick cycle or a walk, and and then that's it. Call it a night. I wake up 6 a.m. I send the kids to school,
Right.
so that's the time
Nice.
we chat as well.
Okay.
Buy breakfast and coffee, come home, then have breakfast with the wife, and then boom, I'm out
Nice.
the door to work, and that happens Monday to Friday.
Right.
And then Saturday and Sunday, I do my best not to go into the city, so my wife knows that very well. You won't find me in town shopping, nothing. So it's either people visit us at home or we do something within the neighborhood and keep it as quiet as we can.
Okay.
Now it's quiet because of COVID, but if it's not, then maybe birthdays or something important, you'll see me moving around on the weekend.
Nice.
And it's just catching up with some rest. So very, very slow, and Sunday evenings, soccer.
Has family life changed the way you see or the way you do things in business? Like,
I think age does that, right? So age does that in terms of the way you work, in terms of family life as well, in terms of a lot of things. Sometimes my wife says you got to tone down your voice, right? You're not at work now,
okay.
right? But it does to a certain extent because now, Mila is 13, Max is 8, and Maya's 2, right? These are my kids, right? So how I talk, content of the way I talk, mannerisms change. So I guess it calms you,
Right, yes.
I get less stressed in a way, and I try to apply what happens at home, which is great, to what happens at work. But stress will be there. It's just how you manage it, right? I guess, and any sort of learnings I can get, I'll take it.
Okay.
And the home setting is a great one, and that's my anchor point or my lighthouse, shall I say?
Nice.
Whenever something comes up, I'll take direction from there.
Right. What keeps Nasen going and ahead of the game as well?
What keeps me going, I think, on a personal level, right? I think definitely the family, right? What else is there?
Okay.
I mean, just look at the kids and the future they have ahead of them, and you got to work hard to keep them going and giving them the best experiences, exposure, opportunities. That will keep me going for a long time, right?
Okay.
I'm 46, my youngest is 2. So
Right.
I'll be working till about 70, 75, Sasi. Now, work-wise...
All of us.
Yes. I think work-wise, from today's discussion or chat or conversation, right, you can see there are some stories I can tell, a lot of connection with people.
Yes.
So being in this business, the customer pool that we have, I think we do an average of about 70,000 customers through the doors. Now, obviously, I don't meet them one-on-one.
Yeah.
But I know the work I do behind somehow has to connect or resonate with them in order for them to keep coming back.
Okay.
So that keeps me going.
Right.
What really keeps me going is actually my staff, my team.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
even the waiter in my bar, if I walk in now, right, I've been in that position,
Okay.
right? So these guys need a job.
Right.
For a lot of them, they're going to do this, they're going to stay in F&B for a long time.
Yes.
And I think it's very important that if they have the interest and I make the effort to try and bring them to the next level and the next level and so on.
Right.
So that really keeps me going, because if you're going to do something in the same industry till you're 60, 65,
Yeah.
then better climb that ladder the best you can.
Right.
And that's better than staying where you are. Obviously, there are some guys that are very happy staying where they are, and I respect that because they have other channels, they've got enough savings, they've got some business running, and they just want to do that easy job in and out. So knowing your people is important.
Right.
But that keeps me going, making sure that they're always improving. Even if they leave me to join some other company, I want them to say that, wow, the Harry's guy, they're good. We gotta start stealing the Harry stuff. Pay the Harry's guy extra $200 is worth it.
Right.
So that's something that I want, not only for the reputation of the brand or what I do, but it's really for my staff.
Nice.
So that keeps me going.
Nice. Reasons why you are here or where you are today. What are the reasons?
Wow. That's a tough one, right? I think, let's put it this way, I'm very driven, right?
Okay.
So I'm driven in terms of knowing what the objective is and getting there.
Right.
At the same time, I get there without cutting corners, right? Because when you start to cut corners, other problems open up. So that builds a reputation that you did do things right, right? You got to do good business, right? Anyone can take the shortcut. I could drive a Ferrari today, right? But if I don't do things right, I'll be, you know, cycling my bicycle 5 years from now, right? So doing things right and persevering and getting there. So even at my level, people would think CEOs go into a boardroom, talk to their senior managers, and walk out, right? So there are certain things I even go to the nitty gritty of knowing just to be sure. So not letting your eye off the balls, and I try not to be a control freak, right? Because you got to let your managers breathe, the creative juices coming out.
You're not being a micromanager. You don't micromanage.
Yeah, but you still need to be there because there are people you need to answer to, right?
Yeah.
So in business, when you take up a position and investors put in real hard money, and to me, there's no difference whether a rich person loses money or a poor person. Obviously, I feel sorry for the poor person, but I feel the same for the rich person because there is an objective.
Right.
Business is supposed to turn over X for them,
Okay.
and I'm paid to turn over X,
Of course.
and I got to get this done.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that's how I look at things.
You're very much spot on because anyone who knows or who've been listening to this podcast, that is what it's all about, right? You have an objective, you have got a goal, you are driven, but you don't cut corners because you got to do things right, and that comes with a reputation and all. And I think that is brilliant, right? Any regrets?
None, man, none.
None?
I met my wife working in Melbourne,
Okay.
right? So
Yes.
if I regretted anything with F&B, then the clock turns back. Actually, none, right? I think even in school, obviously education or a degree would be great. I think I can go get a part-time degree now, but it's also time versus that and drive to get there. So really no regrets. Whatever turned out bad or did not work out so well, it's just about turning that lesson or turning that matter into lesson, right?
Yeah.
And there's no downtime. So even now during this COVID time, I tell my guys, let's not waste time. I mean, we're not going to grow the revenue. We know it.
Yeah.
But let's not waste time doing other things. Because even if we sit at home, right, the money's not going to move because there are certain constraints when it comes to a health risk that you cannot just challenge it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So don't utilize that time for other things, right? And even in setbacks and you're down, the time must not be wasted.
Okay.
The learnings must not be wasted.
Right.
So yeah, that's how I look at it.
Nice. One last thing, right? Advice for any youngsters who might want to join the F&B industry. Someone coming out, someone just probably just got off NS and...
Right. I think maybe I'll use the word patience. Right, we'll start off with patience. Now, obviously, some people might say interest level, drive, and hard work, and I would say patience because this is actually a journey, right?
Right.
Now I'm sitting here talking. It's 20 odd years in doing this, right? 20 years ago, if you asked me, I think I'll be looking at things differently.
Right.
So it's really about patience. If you can look at your career and your life every 3-5 years.
Okay.
And put that as the milestone of where you want to go.
Right.
Then it doesn't seem so bad, right? Now, obviously, you come out straight from uni and you say, okay, I don't mind F&B,
Right.
but I want to be a manager 1 year, right?
Okay.
Look at it realistically, and when you do good, you might get things faster.
Yeah.
But if you think things are just going to happen year after year, it's not so easy. It's not so easy.
Yeah.
And I think learn from the experienced people.
Okay.
I think that's very important, right? And I'm not talking experience only just like me, right? So someone who's smart, educated, you can actually learn something from your colleague who's been sitting around 10 years. And obviously how he's been doing job A, you've
Right.
learned in school how to do job A in
Right.
like super quick time.
Right.
But he still has something to show you in job A that you might have not
Okay.
been thought.
Okay.
Right, so patience, and then look at your colleagues and learn from them. And even if your colleague's lazy, man, there's something to learn. I think I learned a lot from a lot of lazy people, right? Because then I know how to be hardworking, right? So it's benchmarking. You don't see, you
Okay.
don't know,
Right.
right? And if you went into a place, everyone was a high flyer, I don't think you learn much.
Right.
And if everyone was someone who just never showed up for work or was lazy, you're not going to learn anything as well.
Right,
So
right.
it's really the balance of life, and that does not change in the work environment. So my advice would be patience and soak in the experience.
Yes, and just to top up on that as well, you spoke about the patience as well, and obviously people will have their goals. Like I don't, like you said, right? In 1 year or 2 years, you want to be a manager and all. But sometimes it's always good to do things without expecting something. Then that gets to your head more. Just do the job, be consistent, do a good job, obviously, and then
Right.
I do feel that you will be rewarded in the end. I
Yes.
just do feel it that way as
Yes.
well.
I think very, very true, Sasi. I totally agree with you. The other thing is once you know the basics, right,
Yeah.
and you want to reach for position A, you must know what position A actually means.
Right.
And you're not going to learn that so easily.
Right.
Right? So you got to find a way to learn it.
Right.
Right? So when I was put in a spot when I was younger and there was no Google, I would ask my finance manager to stay back and I said, I'll owe you dinner or something and show me 1 + 1 = 2. And
Yeah.
when they use these words in a meeting, what does it mean, right? From financial terms, right? Because I had to present my cost of goods, your beverage costing, and you had to do a lot of things on numbers, right? Which I could do with pen and paper, but I had to go into a meeting, right? And you must talk. So you had to learn it, right? So I had to stay back. I had to buy someone a meal, and I use this line all the time. I tell my guys, just buy the analyst a meal, man. He'll rush your reports out, and he'll teach you how to read it as well. So you have to make your own effort and time. If you cannot learn it during your work hours, which I don't believe you can. Because if you're not knowing what to look out for, then how do you learn?
Yeah.
I mean, you can see some things and that's about it. So it has to be after hours where the effort comes in.
Yeah.
Whether it's reading, talking, or buying someone a meal and that experienced person tells you. So the effort has to come from the individual.
Great advice. Any promotions coming up for Harry's? Where can I go? Any promotions, Nasen? For those listening in.
Now, now with safe distancing and everything out there, right? We're trying to be responsible, so we're not doing drink promotions. We're not going all out. We're just producing the menu that everyone knows and loves.
Right.
That's all available at our stores.
Okay.
And besides Harry's, right, and for everyone listening, I would say support local, in a safe manner. Right, I know you're used to ordering just delivery or and working from home, but the local businesses do need some encouragement. And if you look at hospitality sectors, I know no one's rushing for hotel staycations, but they'll need some help. Theme parks will need some help, theaters will need some help. So within your own comfort level, know that everyone's struggling, and if you can do it in a safe manner, and if those operators operate responsibility within guidelines, show them your support and walk in there, take that seat and have a good meal, and Harry's welcomes anyone at any time.
Great. I have been speaking to Nasen Thiagarajan, the CEO of Harry's Singapore. Thank you, Nasen, for being on the show. Thank you so much. I think it has been really, really inspiring for me and hopefully for the listeners as well. From not bad, from cutting lemons to the CEO of Harry's. Absolutely brilliant. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Sasi, and thanks to everyone listening in, and hopefully everyone listens in for all your podcasts, and wishing you all the best as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.